Hey folks, welcome back. It's Father's Day as I record this, so if you're a father, happy Father's Day. In this video, we're going to take a look at some techniques that I use to help me quickly create buildings in perspective. And this is not the only way to do it, but if you're working digitally and you have access to digital tools, I think this can save you a lot of time and hopefully make the process of creating environments fun. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off by creating some kind of a base model here of a building, just some kind of a rectangle. And I could use the rectangle tool, but I like the organic lines of my inks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to draw it. I'll create a stacking tower just like this. And what I'll do is I'll make a few copies of this just so I can show you how you can use the perspective tool. We're going to do a 2-point perspective where we can see each side of the building, and we're also going to do an overhead shot, but you can apply this to other types of perspective. So I'm making a copy. I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to right click and choose perspective. I'll click on one of the corners and I'll drag it out like this. I'll hit return. Let's scale it down so that we can actually get a better view of what we're working with. I'm going to hide my original. And so now I've got this object right here. So I'm going to create this building in perspective, and I'm going to do that by hitting Command J to make a copy of the previous object. I'm going to move it out. I'm going to hit Command T. And if I want to uniformly scale something in Photoshop, I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Option keys. And that constrains the aspect ratio. If I don't hold down the Shift key, then it can wobble. So holding down the Shift and the Option key allows me to control the transform. So again, I can make this as wide as I want, or I can make it as narrow as I want, really up to you. And then what I'll do is I'll drop the opacity of this particular layer. Now what I'll do is I'll just simply connect those lines. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I can hide the copy so I have a building here. And this is just one way I can quickly create a building. But the question that you might have is, well, how do I construct or create the windows or the other accessories that go with this particular building? And that's what I want to show you next. There's multiple ways of doing this. You could use the vanishing point tool, which I've talked about in the past, but I want to show you another method that I think was also going to work, and it's also a little bit more organic. To do this, I'm going to use the brush tool, and I'm going to choose the vertical symmetry. I'm going to drag this out, just move this into position like so. I'll hit return, and the goal of this is I'm going to make a bunch of vertical lines. Now, you can see that I've got my libraries panel open, and in my libraries panel, I already have several assets already saved, so I can just reuse them over and over again. But I'm just going to show you this from scratch. And the symmetry tool is nice because it allows me to go ahead and create double the number of lines. So I'm holding down the Shift key. And it's okay if the number of lines extends beyond. We don't really care about that too much. And I can do the same thing for the opposite side, but I'm just going to show you this one side because I think you'll get the point. So I've got these vertical lines as follows. Now what I can do is, you can see here that I've got several types of windows. I'm pulling this in from my library. I've just drawn this in the past. I've got different window shapes. And what I'll do is I'll just concentrate on this top part right here. So I'm holding down the Shift key to constrain it. I'm going to get this to within the size of that top area. Let me just zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. There we go. And now what I can do is I can right click, I'll choose perspective. I'll drag this upper corner here, drag the lower corner here. You can see that it's not really cooperating, right? So in this particular case, perspective may not be the right tool. I might have to use something like skew. And the reason why I'm putting these vertical lines, the reason why I drew those in the first place is just to give me some point of comparison. So here the perspective looks right, but now I need to scale it. So I can go ahead and right click, choose scale, hold down the shift key, and now I've got some windows and I can hide those existing lines. And depending upon how close or how far away you're looking at your particular building, you may want to add some thickness or other elements. This is just basically a flat set of buildings here, but this might be good for a wide shot. So I've used the skew tool to be able to adjust that particular perspective. So I want to now switch gears and just draw the same building from a different angle. So I'm just going to move this out, scale it down. And this time I'm going to right click and choose perspective. And I'm going to do a view as if we're looking down on the building. So now I'll just hit Command J to make a copy, move this up, hit Command T, hold down the Shift key to uniformly constrain it. And I like to drop the opacity just so I can see what I'm working with. Make a new layer. And then don't forget that these also have the same thicknesses here. And what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put a little line just so that it looks like one box is actually contained within the other box. And then I can get rid of that previous copy, like so. And I'll do the same thing again here. I'll make a brand new layer. I'll use my brush tool. I'll use my vertical symmetry tool. I'll position this somewhere in the middle. I'll just make a bunch of vertical lines. And again, if you already have this in your libraries, then you don't have to keep doing this every single time. And let's say that, excuse me, you want to hand draw your windows. This can be great too. So I've got these vertical lines here. I can hit Command J, Command T, and rotate this. And I can construct a series of grids very, very easily. I'm just going to do it that way for this particular example. Now I can hit Command T, and I can choose the perspective tool. I can click this in. And I think I've got some extra vertical lines, so let me just make sure that I've merged those two copies. I've got the horizontal lines, the vertical lines. I did not merge. Let's do that. Let's merge it. Now we'll try perspective. And you can see that I've got these guidelines in place. And I can move this and adjust this. This doesn't look exactly perfect, but if I now wanted to go ahead and draw, hand draw some windows, let me turn off the symmetry tool. I'll make a new layer and draw my windows. Maybe if I wanted to give it a more customized look to kind of break up the monotony. Most interesting buildings are the buildings that actually aren't, just so cookie cutter where they look exactly the same. Maybe in this particular case, I want to make this a little bit wider, for example. It adds a little bit of extra, character to it. So I can combine this technique with this idea of bringing out additional windows. So I can make parts of it very organic and then parts of it utilizing this library technique. So I've got this. I'll scale this down. Again, holding down the Shift key. I will zoom in. And this should work with perspective. So if you drag those corners out, and I can just move it into position to where I've got an equal amount of space on the left and right hand side. And then I can get rid of my guidelines. Now, how do I know which layer my guidelines are? If I just right click, it tells me that the layers that are underneath this particular point on where my cursor is layer 10 copy 2. I can just simply hide it. And it looks like I need to make one more adjustment. So again, I'll control click. I'll scale this down even more. Move it into position. And there we go. And it's a smart object whenever I drag something out of these libraries. So if I want to make some edits, I have to convert it to a rasterized object. I'm getting rid of some of the brickwork that I have here. And now I've got another set of windows. So this is something that can be very helpful if you're trying to construct, a skyscraper or a building very quickly. They come in all different forms and shapes and sizes. So look at some references to get some better ideas, but this can save you a lot of time. If you build a set of reusable assets, like for things that are repetitive and monotonous, like windows or doors or other assets like that, you can always drag those elements in. The only question that you might have is, well, how do I put something into my library? So that's where I'm going to end this video on. So if we look at I'll just bring back one of my existing buildings here, which I drew previously, this one. So if I want to go ahead and save that to my library, what I'll just simply do is I'll just move this off. I'll go to Window, and I'll choose Libraries. And I can always take this and drag it in, and it will save it to my libraries. Let's just say, okay, problem has occurred. I don't know what that problem was, but basically it's in my libraries. If I want to now drag it and use it again, it comes out as a smart object. And that way I don't have to redraw this building every single time. So you can actually create a set of assets. If you're trying to quickly generate some type of an environment or a background, this can be very, very helpful. So if you found value in this particular video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't considered subscribing, think about it. I offer new tips for digital art each and every week. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.